Gainer player, loser player. That's how it goes sometimes. Hello, welcome to the Battle in Barrow and another D&D campaign waffle session. Yes, so as alluded to in the top bit there, our new player, couldn't make it to this week's session due to being unwell. That happens, and it's a nice challenge for a DM to deal with, figure out how you're going to deal with it. You've got two options: let someone else take their character on. I don't like that. That's their character. Or do what I did here, which you'll find out in the story how I did it. I also need to make a correction from last week. I was pronouncing his name wrong, so perhaps that's why he didn't come this week. He was offended. It's Anirafel is his character's name, and I think I was calling it Amrafel or something like that. I couldn't read my own writing, my own DM notes that I make for myself for such things. It's Anirafel. So yes, let's rather than listen to me waffle any further, let's get to the real waffles. We last left our team inside a ghoul cave. They had to explore last time. There is another correction here. I don't know if I mentioned it in the video, but they found a potions of undead control or something like that, but that doesn't exist in 5e, so I've swapped it out for necrotic resistance. Just to be fair, it's undead adjacent. But anyway, it is while they're in the cave, Stephen decides he's still in his civilian clothes. He's going to get changed into his adventuring clothes. So I've swapped out the model here, make it more useful, because he does have some fighting capabilities, even though he is more of an academic. He's like, I forget the character's name, but in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, the guy who says the pen is mightier than the sword, sort of more a bit like that, but he's got fighting skills. They leave the cave and re-enter the misted surroundings with the standing stones and the skeletons of the gnolls that have just been left. They're in their sort of sacred ground, gnoll sacred ground, and they're making their way through the mist when they notice that seem to have lost one of their party members, the guy that joined them last session. They're not too sure if he's just decided he's had enough, he's lost in the mist, or he's up to no good. They call out for him, have a little search for a while, and decide they're wasting too much time. They need to press on. Hopefully, if he has just got lost, he can find them. They know that they're going north. Hopefully they can meet up outside of the mist, and they continue trying to head north as much as possible. They are in fact heading north east, I think it was, but they soon rectify that because they come to the edge of the ravine and head north from there. At this point they reach a hut just at the edge of the mist. They sort of scout around for a bit, not getting too near it, and it's seemingly empty, but they've fallen for these tricks before. As they get near the door, from outside the back of the hut, a gnoll shaman and some warriors attack. It's a gnoll female shaman. She tries to keep out of combat whilst the others sends her minions in, and she is casting spells, and she heals the warriors and the potion and the herself when she takes a few arrows. I think she paralyzes Stephen in that one, and it's quite a fun combat. It's one of the most fun combats I've had in 5e. Mainly because perhaps I'm getting my head around the combat rules now, making it a bit more tactful, using tactics. After defeating the gnolls, they search the cabin. There's nothing really much of interest. A few coins, some spells for a cleric that the wizard can't really use or make use of or even understand. And they decide to leave it and crack on. They make their way north, and behind them, they've now left the mist, and behind them they're still looking around for their missing new companion. They don't see him anywhere. But what they do notice is smoke plumes that blow up sort of, say, to the west behind them, like not just a constant, but like a puff of smoke, like Native American smoke signals, I guess is what I'm trying to go for here. And then, but that seems to be answered by something to the west, the east even, but always behind them. And they then realise that I think they're being, the gnolls have been alerted to their presence, and they push forward. A few hours more, they look behind them, and here they can see what they didn't really want to see. There is a massive war party of gnolls heading towards them, and they can make out ogres amongst it. It's almost a mini army at this stage, so they decide to push on and hope whatever is in the end of this valley is going to work out for them, some sort of escape route maybe. Again, another hour passes and they look behind them, and this war party has now grown. Retreat is now impossible. Standing and fighting would be just, there's no chance they'll survive. So they push on, and they soon come to the end of the valley, which is ends in, they're following the river up. They managed to re-find the river, and they follow that, taking them north, and it ends in a waterfall. At the top of the waterfall, they can just sort of make out a bridge going across it, right at the top of the valley, sort of ravine gorge. And they also notice a cave leading sort of right by the entrance of the waterfall, so they decide that that must lead up somehow, a cave system leading up to the top. It's better than staying where they are to be trapped and hemmed in by an army of gnolls and many ogres. So they do enter the cave, and it is indeed a set of stairs that lead upwards in the complete pitch black. They manage to feel their way up and gently lead their horses up as well, which was a feat in itself. And it comes across the top of the waterfall. There is a bridge right on the edge of the waterfall that they come out across, and in the middle of the bridge is a ruined stone building with two statues, steel statues in front of it. Now, the pictures I'm showing here just have generic steel statues, but they are in fact Hatarkan statues, so they have jackal heads. And more importantly than that, there are 3 skeletons in front of them, seemingly of gnolls. So they do come up here, but they're hoping that the whole party, if they do come up, will be slowed down. They go to move forward, but then remember they've encountered living statues before, and these are obviously Hatarkan, as I said. And with the skeletons in front of them, they rightly deduce that these are guardian statues that would come alive. And they sort of think to themselves, there must be, back in the day, I got their thinking, they guessed correctly that back in the day this would be used by Hatarkans, and there must be some way that, something they could show that would they could hold up to the statues and maybe let them in, some sort of pass thing. They didn't see think of the tapestry, but that's back at the homestead. What they do have though is the Hatarkan needle and thread, so they tentatively walk past that, holding that up as some sort of a pass, and it does in fact work. The statues don't activate, and they make it across the bridge, and on the other side there's a path leading up a mountainous side. It's on the side of the mountain going up by the river, so that they make their way across that path, and it's going up as well. The path's climbing up into the mountain range leading away from the river. The path's fairly well maintained, but in a few places it does give way to a gap that they have to edge their way across. That's fine for the humans, but they've got horses as well, so there is a chance that the horses could fall. Luckily none do. They manage to really carefully work together, slowly but surely, and get their horses across. Likewise, as well as the path collapsing, there is rockfall, sort of landslide that blocks their path, and they have to tentatively climb over that, again with the horses. There are parts where the path really narrows, gets down to about half its width, and sooner or later they come across a large 200-foot bridge that spans a gorge, and it's about a 200-foot drop as well, but it's a wide bridge, so they make their way across, and then from the air they hear screeching, and they look up and see two griffins hurtling towards them, seemingly aiming for their horses, which is what the griffins are in fact doing. They're going to try and snatch the horses up and have a meal. Griffins aren't evil, they're just creatures looking for a meal, and it's quite slim pickings up here, and they can see lots of tasty horses. So there is a bit of a race against time to try and take down the griffins as much as possible. There is a bit of cleverness where one griffin seems to be aiming for one horse, and they cast an illusion spell, a mirror image illusion spell that mirrors the image of horses all around. This confuses the griffin, who in fact goes to snatch up the wrong horse, which gives them chance to all pile in and wail on it. The other one is taken out with range weapons, and once the griffins are dealt with, they continue their journey. Again, they cross the bridge and enter another path. This soon leads to another bridge, again spanning a 200-foot gorge with a 200-foot drop. Unfortunately, this bridge has collapsed, so they have to climb down the side of what's underneath the bridge. Luckily, this isn't too bad, even with horses. There's sort of a zigzag path. Think Return of the King, and just at the start of the front of the Paths of the Dead there. It's a bit more, not as defined as that, but that's what I likened it to, sort of platforms that they can climb down with the horses. This does take a good few hours though, slowly but surely going down into the gorge itself. At the bottom though, there is a cave, and there is a massive giant lizard there. This lizard is quite a threat, probably one of the biggest threats the party has encountered. It's a hard fought battle, and when once they defeat the lizard, they sort of poke their head in the cave, and it smells absolutely vile, and there's nothing in there but bones. They decide not to worry about it. They work their way, climb up the other side, and come across another path that leads to another bridge. Unfortunately, this one is also collapsed, so it's down to the same sort of thing, carefully leading down, working their way across and climbing up the other side. But the other side, they can see a massive walled gate structure, much more impressive than anything they've seen so far on this leg of the journey. This could be what they're looking for. They carefully climb up, and there is the entrance to Hataka, the Lost Valley of Hataka. Poking their head in, they can see two stone statues with jackal heads on, to which they do the same thing as last time. They walk through with the Hataka needle held aloft, and they enter, and they have found the Lost Valley. And that is where we ended this week's session. Really enjoyed this one. This one was fun. There was a lot of different challenges. The encounters weren't just combat, apart from the knoll combat really. That was the only encounter that involved combat. The rest of it was different ways to use, they're using their brains and having to plot things out. They can't just do things. The way I describe it, it's like done instantly, but there is taking time for them to think about it. And I'm really enjoying this leg of the module. I didn't think I would. I don't know why. I thought I'd enjoy the first part more, but this bit is really cool. Guys, if you want a cheap module that will give you many sessions and many hours of play, Nike's Dark Terror is great. It's available on print on demand. This is not sponsored, of course, but yeah, I find this better value, and it's great value. It's like, I think I paid £6 for it. It's given me way more value than any of the 5e modules really have so far, which I've literally given up playing. I might look at Ghost of Saltmarsh, but that's a totally different topic for a totally different video. Next week, I am hoping our player will be new player Leon will be better and can join us, and we'll have to work out how we get him back involved with the players, of course. But until then, stay safe and take care.